We'll be live.
Call to order of the April 21st meeting of the Geneva Area City Board of Education. Roll call.
Mr. Arndt? Present. Mr. Dana?
Here.
Ms. Fisher?
Where?
Mrs. Metzler?
Here.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Here.
Are we in compliance?
Yes, we are.
Okay, stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any correspondence?
Yes, I have 2 items to share this evening. First of all, I did receive an email, and I spoke today with the person that sent that email, Kim Wright, and she wrote that our family at Raymond Builder Supply would like to have a memorial boulder or stone made to help remember Mark Brace. He was instrumental in so many things involving our Geneva families and children, especially with our Geneva football team. I wanted to reach out to you and ask permission to have it placed on the high school property and maybe outside a door the football team uses to and from practices and games. We're just in the planning stages, but our thoughts would be to have some of his favorite motivational speeches inscribed on the rock. The rock would be donated by us and would be delivered by us. Thank you for your consideration in this donation, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. I did reach out to Kim and just let her know that I would present this to the board. We could have some discussion as to the possibility of permitting that on the property and maybe a location and look into that a little further. But I did say that I would publicly share that tonight at the board, and she was fine with that. The other item that I wanted to share, this was sent by Craig Burford, the Executive Director of the ESC Association, and it was sent to me, and was a letter for Elena Metzler. Dear Elena, on behalf of the Ohio Educational Service Center Association, OESCA, I want to congratulate you on being named Ashtabula County's Franklin B. Walter All-Scholastic Award winner. Ohio's county superintendent started this initiative in 1989 as a way to recognize outstanding senior scholars from across the state. Your academic achievements, personal accomplishments, and community service have qualified you as one of the best and brightest in the class of 2021. I hope you feel a sense of pride in receiving this award. This year, we celebrate the success of our Franklin B. Walter All-Scholastic Award recipients with a virtual awards program featuring Billy Waltz, a former Franklin B. Walter Award recipient, as a guest speaker. This event will take place on Tuesday, April 27th at 11:30 a.m. The program will be live streamed on the OESCA YouTube channel. Your link for the live stream is below, and we encourage you to share it with family and friends. You will be receiving a packet following the ceremony recognizing you for your accomplishments. Included will be your FBW certificate and a copy of the Columbus Dispatch announcement, which will run on the same day as the event. Again, congratulations for this well-deserved honor, and we wish you much success in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Craig Burford. So congratulations to Elena for being the representative from Ashtabula County. There's one recipient from each county in Ohio. And congratulations, Mrs. Metzler.
Thank you.
That ends my correspondence.
Okay, agenda modification.
Yes, we do have a few agenda modifications this evening. In addition to 4E, number 3. In addition to 4E, number 4. A new number 7. Old 7, 8, 9 now become 8, 9, and 10. Also, one other modification, and I believe it'll be marked on, oh, I'll reference it when we get to our policies.
Eric, I missed the first change. I'm sorry. What was the first change for agenda modification?
In addition to 4E, number, effective date for number 3.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for hearing of the public. If anybody would like to make a comment at this point, please start by stating your name and your address. Okay, we'll move on. I have a motion approval of the minutes from prior meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Okay, approval. Need a motion for the approval of the treasurer's financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
I need a motion for approval of invoices.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
And Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Informational items.
You see 2 donations listed. Again, additional money, $1,075 from various donors per the list in your attachments to the Mark Grace Sports P2P Fund to be used to help reduce the cost of pay to participate for students in need. And I will note that some of that money is being used already for spring sports, student athletes that might have had a difficulty meeting their pay to participate fee. And then $4,800 from the United Way of Ashtabula County on behalf of RHI Magnesita to be used to enhance technology in the virtual learning environment. So we got a donation before from RH Magnesita. If you might recall, at the end of last school year, they donated money to help with the lunchroom, with the bag lunches, and they even volunteered some time in packing those lunches and getting them out on a particular day. So this is another donation and to help with costs because of the created by the need for a virtual learning environment. So,
Do you have any idea how those funds will be used?
no, I've turned it over to Mr. Kujala and Mr. Bergard, and they'll look to see how they can best use them, and then we're supposed to report back to the United Way of how those were used.
Thanks.
Okay, legislative report.
Thank you. In a March 10th press conference, the Ohio House of Representatives, along with local school district superintendents and statewide education association directors, unveiled House Bill 200, which would eliminate Ohio's A through F letter grades and overall summative ratings for public school districts and schools. House Bill 200 is the culmination of a state report card study committee's work. The committee met in 2019 and conducted several meetings to hear comments from education groups and individuals about issues associated with the current report card system, as well as recommendations to revise the system. The committee met in December of 2019 for the final time and issued its legally mandated report. However, no recommendations were made. Instead, the report merely restated all of the recommendations it heard from the groups and individuals. Over the ensuing months, the House worked to compile the recommendations and weave them into legislation now contained in House Bill 200. The bill would establish 6 new performance ratings instead of the ratings of A through F. The proposed ratings include significantly exceeds expectations, meets expectations, making substantial progress towards expectations, making moderate progress toward expectations, and in need of support. House Bill 200 will continue rating the areas of achievement, progress, gap closing, graduation rate, improving at-risk K-3 readers. The prepared for success component would be reported but not graded. House Bill 200 would also make several changes to each component. House Bill 200's changes regarding A through F letter grades are expected to face opposition with key members of the Senate. Sponsored testimony on House Bill 200 was held in the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee in mid-March. The Senate introduced Senate Bill 145, their effort to revise the state report card system. There are differences in the House and the Senate bills, but both have already had hearings and are in place to, quote, help address the long-lasting systemic issues in Ohio's education. The State Board of Education passed a resolution to recommend approval of a recommendation to the General Assembly regarding revisions to the state report card. So this is being talked about by everybody right now. The resolution outlines the following revisions of the state report card that the State Board of Education supports. Some of those include the elimination of the current A through F letter grade rating system and replacing it with a new rating system that is clear and easy for families to understand. The adoption of a new equity component that will shine light on the performance of student groups to ensure schools are accountable for the academic achievement of all students in the state. And a measure for K-3 literacy that recognizes that promotion and proficiency are 2 important concepts and districts should be recognized for improvement. And as an FYI, Ohio's current report card system was enacted in 2012. However, despite the system being law for nearly a decade, there have been only 2 years in which the districts and schools have received an overall letter grade, 2017-18 and 18-19 school years. Phase-in delays, safe harbor pauses, and COVID-19 reprieves forced lawmakers to not use overall letter grades, but in some cases for most of the other years, individual components did receive letter grade ratings. On April 13th, the House Finance Committee accepted a substitute version of the biennial budget bill, House Bill 110. Substitute House Bill 110 includes numerous policy changes, one of which appropriates $45 million in each fiscal year to support bus purchase grants, as well as including the Fair School Funding Plan, House Bill 1, with modifications. One change being establishing a temporary guarantee for fiscal year 22 and 23 for school districts to ensure that no school district receives less than its combined funding for fiscal year 21 from foundation aid before state funding reductions, not the transfers, the student wellness and success funds and enhancement funds, and the enrollment growth supplement funds. The House Finance Committee held hearings last week on the budget bill, and a full vote of the House on the bill was expected today. I don't have the update on that at this point, but I'm sure I'll be talking about it next month. On March 20th, Governor DeWine signed into law House Bill 67. The bill makes the following changes effective immediately for this school year, 2021. There are at least 7 changes that have been made, and we've talked about them many times before. So I'll give you just a couple to remind you. It exempts the public and chartered non-public schools from administering the state-required American History end of course exam in the 2021 school year, and provides an alternate pathway to graduation for the 2021 school year by permitting a student to qualify for a high school diploma by both successfully completing the curriculum requirements and earning the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. There are a number of others, and just so that you know, as I do every month, I send you a copy of this legislative report. There will be italics on some of the things that I didn't report on in person today, but are still a part of the report, so you can take a look at that. In addition, House Bill 67 directs the ODE not to publish state report card ratings for the 2021 school year or assign an overall letter grade for any school district or building. If a school district was subject to penalties or sanctions for the 2021 school year based on its report card rating from previous years, those penalties or sanctions will remain in effect for the 21-22 school year. And the House passed House Bill 133. The bill would provide a reduced property valuation for the tax years of 20, 21, and 22 for eligible individuals as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, among other changes. The bill was amended in committee to ensure that valuation and millage stay in alignment to protect school districts from losing local levy dollars. The bill now heads to the Senate for consideration. And during the week of March 29th, President Biden announced the American Jobs Plan, an overall $2 trillion infrastructure proposal. Included in the plan is $100 billion to upgrade and build new public schools. The funding would allocate $50 billion in direct grants and $50 billion through bonds. The plan also includes $100 billion to improve broadband infrastructure. And in newly introduced legislation, House Bill 240 was introduced by Representative Reggie Stoltzfus from Paris Township and our own Representative Sarah Fowler Arthur to enact the Parents' Right to Know Act to enforce school district compliance with venereal disease or teen pregnancy prevention instruction requirements, to require a parent or guardian to give permission for additional information not specified in current law, and require an annual compliance audit for all school districts. And Senate Bill 135 to require school districts include in career advising policies information for career fields with an associate's degree and certificates, and provide information on reserve officer training corps, and require school districts to adopt a policy on free speech and include a process for student or teacher to file a complaint due to a violation of the policy. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. The Atec report. The April board meeting for Atec was held on Monday, the 19th. Atec is planning to have a summer school program this year. It's anticipated there may be a need for 2 sessions because of the challenges of online learning due to the COVID. The subjects covered will be math, science, English, and social studies. Signing night was held on April 16th. This is where the new students and their parents meet with instructors, visit labs, and meet other students. They sign a letter of intent, which is a commitment to strive to do their best in academics and career technical programs during the 21-22 school year. Total enrollment as of April 19th for the 21-22 school year stands at 624, with 1 more school left to visit. This compares to 547 this year, or the current year, and 486 last year. All programs have enough enrollment, so there will be a full complement of courses offered. No program will be dropped due to low interest. And just as a side note, the cosmetology department uses mannequin heads to do makeup and hairstyling and so forth. And when they have served their purpose there and kind of get worn out, they send the heads over to the health services group, who uses them to draw the muscle structure, bone structure, and joints and so forth for the medical part. So I thought that was kind of a nice pass along and use of assets. So that's the Atec report. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I'm going to start tonight with our Geneva Pride positives. And again, I always find great pleasure in recognizing the many great activities and events and students that are at our schools. At Osterberg Park in Geneva Flat Spencer, Recovery Wednesday started the week of April 14th. After extensive planning and collaboration with staff members, they made sure the students really enjoyed their day while learning. Also at the 3 elementaries, upcoming Ohio State testing begins this week. Parents of remote students will be bringing their students to testing on Wednesdays. Staff has been working hard to prepare students for this type of testing. And if you've driven by any of the elementary buildings, the SOAR banners have been installed at all elementary buildings. The banners were purchased with grant money for PBIS. Tom Kearns and Dave Wright have been busy installing them on the light poles, and they do look great. At Geneva Middle School, teachers and students have been working hard getting some practice and to get ready for state testing that begins this Thursday, April 22nd. In addition to all the hard work being done during the school day, GMS has also had approximately 245 students coming in on Wednesdays, which is our Recovery Wednesdays, for the past 3 weeks for extra intervention and work. Teachers and students are diligently working to close out the school year on the highest academic note possible. Also at Geneva Middle School, the class of 2025, 8th grade steering committee is hosting Dancing in the Rafters on Thursday, May 6th from 7 to 10 p.m. This will be the first middle school dance this year, and the steering committee is planning a very special event. DJ Dave George will provide the music, and Mary's Kitchen food truck will provide a fun meal for our 8th grade students. The students will get to spend the evening in the beautiful setting of the Running Horse Farm and not only celebrate a successful school year, but a successful middle school career. Our 8th graders have been through a lot this last year. They have adapted, persevered, and succeeded. We are super proud of them. And also at Geneva Middle School, after having missed our 2020 track and field season, our Geneva Middle School athletes have worked exceptionally hard to prepare for the 2021 season. Athletes competing had to learn all of the events, rules, and procedures for the first time because none of them had the opportunity to participate in track and field before. Their season is off to a great start with several victories, outstanding performances, and the potential of breaking several school records. There are also several male athletes that are currently on pace to qualify for the middle school state track and field meet. These student athletes demonstrate Geneva pride every time they step on the track. At Geneva High School, this year Geneva schools will be able to host a prom for its students. It may look a little different with social distancing, a served dinner instead of a buffet, and masks, but the event is scheduled and the district is moving forward with plans. The Geneva High School junior and senior prom night under the sea is May 7th from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. at the Geneva Lodge. Due to capacity limits, there are only 200 tickets available to students. Also at Geneva High School, one of the highlights of last year's closure was the graduation parade prior to the graduation ceremony. This year, a parade will be held that will not be in conjunction with the graduation, but it will be a great way to honor the GHS class of 2021. The parade will be held on Wednesday, June 2nd, with a rain date of Thursday, June 3rd. The parade will begin at Geneva Middle School and end at Geneva High School with a senior cookout. We are asking a couple of local food trucks to assist with the food. The school is working on donations to offset the cost. Lineup will begin at 5 p.m. or 5:30 p.m. and the parade will kick off at 6 p.m. One vehicle per graduate will be permitted unless there are extenuating circumstances and prior approval is given by school administration. Cars can be decorated as long as they are school appropriate, and we will use the same parade route as last year. All local safety forces will be invited to participate. We hope families along the route and others in our community will safely join in celebrating the GHS class of 2021. Another highlight from last year were the Geneva Pride banners that included pictures of our wonderful graduates. The banners were displayed in the Geneva downtown area during the month of June. This year, GHS is working with the same printer to create banners for our 2021 graduates. The two-sided banners will have 4 student pictures on each side with a header to honor our graduates. On the bottom of each banner, there is a space for a sponsor to be recognized. If you are interested in sponsoring the cost of the banner, please go to the district's website at genevaschools.org and look for the news article entitled GHS 2021 Banners for more information. And finally, although last year's drive-through graduation and ceremony that was simulcast on WKKY for our students and families turned out well, it is great to be planning for a traditional graduation ceremony. Graduation will be held at Spire on Saturday, June 5th at 2 p.m. We are scheduled to be inside or outside, depending on COVID-19 guidelines. As of today, the inside capacity is 500, which will only allow the student to provide 2 tickets per student. In the past, we have not had to limit spectators and have accommodated over 3,000 family members and guests. So we are planning on setting up in the outdoor stadium, which will allow us to accommodate all spectators. We are hoping for wonderful weather and a great day to honor our JHS 2021 graduates. So that ends my Geneva Pride positives for today.
I recommend the board approve the enclosed service agreement for Right at School in the 2021-22 school year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion.
It's my understanding that this has been looked over by our legal counsel and has been approved as to form, correct?
Yes, I did send the full agreement to our legal counsel. They did review it and they gave the approval to it.
Thank you.
Can I share briefly just a little bit of information? I did provide to each of you, and Mr. Dane, I'm sure I didn't get this out to you, but I will get it with some additional information for you. It is a two-sided sheet. It just shows a typical day after school with Right at School, and kind of shows a little bit what the afternoon would look like with the active structured play, the homework help, a snack. Then they would regroup, and then they do have a curriculum that they provide. So they have a junior educator activity, then the curriculum stations that they use, and then they have kind of a choice club at the end that students can do. And on the back of that sheet, that little schedule that they provided, is a little bit of their curriculum, just a snapshot of some of the curriculum that they do provide. So not only is this a before and after school program that would be available to Osterberg, Court, and GPS students. Now, we do have some limits on numbers. We'll have 30 at each of the buildings, Osterberg and Court, and 45 at GPS. But it'll be available in the morning from 7 to 8:45, and then available in the afternoon from right after school hours at 3:15 to 6 p.m. And again, they keep a 1 to 15 ratio. If we do have more students that are interested, they can create a waiting list or they can bring in additional staff. This is a really independent service. They take care of everything. They take care of the resources, the materials, the supplies, the curriculum, the snack. Everything is provided through this group, and they supply all the employees. This was something that we had looked at last year and decided to hold back when we didn't know what the school year would look like this year. And I'm thankful that we did, because not knowing or starting in that hybrid and starting with the way that the year started, I'm glad that we decided to hold off. But I think this would be a springboard for, if we stay with something like this for before and after school for our elementaries, which we get a lot of requests every year from families, if we would have something that might be offered as a before and after school program or latchkey. And so maybe this is a springboard. If it's not a continuation with this company, it might be something that when we hire our own employees or look to do something different in years to come. But I just wanted to share that a little bit with you. And if you have additional questions, I'd be glad to try to answer those.
I have one question. The 7 to 8:30, is that like the 30 or 45, and then the 3:15 to 6? Is it different groups of students?
It could be. Some may only be morning students. Some may be morning and afternoon. So when we do our counts, they will allow, if there's maybe some that are just going to be AM students, they really just need the morning time. They would not count in our total. They might be coordinated with someone that's an afternoon person.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
Mr. Dana,
Yes.
and Ms. Fisher.
Yes. Okay, I need a motion for items 4, 5, and 6, which are personnel actions.
We have number 3. Up on the top.
Oh, item number 3, which is the new revised and replacement policy for board adoption. Is this the first reading?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so no action will be needed tonight, but this is for next month.
Yes. And I'll just mention that I think this is another outcome of the pandemic. I think there's been some additional time to relook at policies, relook at some of the information that's being presented, and obviously with some of the changes that have happened. Your policy packet that I provided to you, I think is in the 190-page range. Many of the policies are similar. You'll see this as you go through, like you'll see in the title, you'll have 3 that are non-discrimination and equal employment opportunities. Those are very similar when you look through, so you might even want to group those. And they'll be maybe different for administration, the 1,000 series, the 3,000 would be professional staff, the 4,000 would be classified staff. So you'll see that there's some repetitive policies in there because they cover different groups within our contract. There was one policy that was taken off your list, and I don't know if it was crossed. I don't think it was crossed off your agenda. It is in the 3rd column, 6146. That will not be part of your packet. Mr. Lillie actually had a conversation with our bond counsel, and after some conversation and consultation with him, they decided that that would be removed. So we did remove that one after that conversation with the bond counsel. So, but this is the first reading. Approval will be next month. You'll also note on there that for many of those policies, there's a spot in where they ask for a name, a title, an email, a phone number, for a compliance person, and for some of them too. I will be adding that information on there, so I will add that in, but for now, I just put a statement on each of those blocks so that you are aware that there'll be a title and a person attached to that. Thank you.
Okay. Now I need a motion for items 4, 5, and 6, which deal with employee actions.
I think these are meant to take separate.
Pardon me?
These are meant to take separate. Make a motion for item 4, then 5, then
Oh,
6.
okay.
Not altogether.
Okay, so item 4,
Moved.
I'll second.
discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
And Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Okay, item 5,
So moved. Second.
second.
discussion.
Question is our, with our 5-year forecast here, can we afford this here? Because we are seeing some red here towards the end of our 5-year forecast.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
the elementary physical education teacher, the funding for that is planned to come from which fund? Not the general fund, but which fund?
The student success and wellness.
Okay.
The 2 housekeepers, we will continue that we employed 2 housekeepers this year using ESSER funds, ESSER 1 funds. We should be able to keep them under the ESSER 2 and then the ESSER 3 funds for several years. So those 3 positions will not hit the 5-year forecast. The 4 educational assistants will, and those were planned to be, they were put off. They're planned to be originally reinstated this year, 2021, but because of the COVID pandemic, those were pushed back to this year. So they are in 5-year forecast as being brought back. And you will see a new 5-year forecast presented in May. One of the revenue pieces that we're waiting to find out about is our last school district income tax distribution at the end of this month. I think you will see additional revenues in there because, what was projected to happen because of the pandemic hasn't happened. Our property tax revenues did not go down. Our school district income tax did not go down as much. The state gave back a little bit of the reduction for this year, and there's some other areas that are increased. Those will be shared at next meeting. But I think you'll see a 5-year forecast that these positions, the educational assistants, easily fit in.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Okay, item 6,
Move.
Second.
discussion.
Yes. Over on elementary head teachers. Are all those teachers currently teaching at the school, at the building, the physical building itself?
Yes,
Okay.
because the first one is back.
Oh, is back
Yeah.
physically?
Yep. Yeah, everybody's at the building.
Thank you.
Can you discuss also subsection D regarding the non-renewal of a large portion of our substitutes and also the extracurricular assignments? Is this just something that we do at the end of each year and it's looked at before the start of the next school season?
Question.
He's referring to the non-renewal item number D in this item, or letter D in this item,
Correct.
that we non-renew the long-term subs, Title I tutors. We have a couple rehired retirees on here that are non-renewed by contract. This is all pretty much, Mr. Dana, according to state law and contract. These were employed on one-year contracts. The Title I, the tutors that are paid out of federal funds, we have to wait and see what those funds are going to look like for next year. So they are traditionally non-renewed, and then if the funds are provided, hired back for next year. The long-term subs, if you don't non-renew them, then they're considered hired on a one-year contract for next year. So anybody that finishes the year on a long-term sub is non-renewed. And then, as I said, there are several rehired retirees, and also the housekeepers that were employed under ESSER funds for this year were 9-month positions. And so those positions are being non-renewed. The positions in the previous item that you were asked to approve to reinstate, we're going to make those 10-month housekeepers so that they are in the buildings before the beginning, a little bit before the beginning of the school year and after the school year, where this year they were only there on student days. So they'll be able to help prep the buildings for cleanings at the beginning of the year and help clean up after the end of the year.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Okay, recommend the approval of the enclosed document management agreement with Conduct through the Aquarius Group Sourcing Alliance Print Management Program Development and Procurement Process.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion?
This was just distributed to you tonight. We had to wait for the actual agreement, and it did not come to us in time to get it out on Friday with the agendas. This is the first time we put this on the agenda. It is a lease program, and I think that it is good for the board to see this and approve. We've been using ComDoc. We're basically in our third plan or third contract or agreement with them. We did an RFP a number of years ago and entered into a 5-year agreement for our copying and all of our print management. So this is like all inclusive for the maintenance of our printers and our copiers, the usage and the machines, the copy machines and multifunction devices. At another point, we continued that for another 3 years, and then another 5-year, which we're currently in, and we're actually breaking into this 5-year program so that we can update to newer machines, faster machines, and move some of the older machines around to replace much older machines, so that we can kind of update the entire district. This agreement reduces our monthly cost by $122. So I think anytime we renegotiate a contract and can save money, it's a good thing. So that's $122 a month over the life of the 5-year contract, which will basically start July 1st. We had been on a program where we got the last machines in the August, September timeframe, right at the beginning or just after the beginning of the school year. And so this is going to put the contract in line with our fiscal year and run from July 1st of 2021 out 5 years. At the end of that 5 years, I'll recommend that the district does go out with an RFP just to check it again. But another nice thing about this plan, there was an RFP process done. We didn't have to do our own. This group called Equalis Group Sourcing Alliance is kind of a buying co-op. They did an extensive RFP process, much bigger than what we would have done. They had, let's see, find it here. They had a long list of vendors that responded to that, and in our region, that award went to ComDuct. And so we're basically using their RFP as our RFP. The work was done, and we're allowed to do that just like state term contract pricing that's available through the state Office of Budget and Management. So we are checking on there. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had 12 different vendors respond to their RFP process, including all the big ones: Toshiba, Sharp, Ricoh, OfficeMax, MT Business Technologies, Lake Business Products, Konica Minolta, Blue Technologies, some of which we would have had responses from, but not all of those. So again, ComDoc was chosen out of that RFP process for our region, and so we feel safe that we're getting a good price for the service, and we're saving money.
On page 1, Kevin, page 1 of 3, what constitutes an impression?
A print, a copy, basically.
A what?
A copy. Copy.
A page?
Yeah, page.
So an impression is a page.
Right.
So when I look at 400,000, I'm looking at 400,000 pages.
Black and white impressions per
Okay.
month. That 400,000, our previous contract was, what did I say, like 490?
Yes.
Our previous contract had a higher one, and the ceiling was set per month. It's now been annualized, and where we, under that contract, actually paid a couple times because we have high months, like at the beginning of the school year, where we're creating a lot of copies, a lot of impressions. And so we paid a little bit on overages because we went over that 400,000 per month. On this contract, they will look at it annually. And on an annual basis, we were printing 380,000 impressions. So looking at it on an annual basis, lowering it to 400,000, which helps lower the cost, we don't believe that we'll trip that and pay any overages, where we did pay overages looking at it on a month-to-month basis. The contract, however, will be on a month-to-month basis as far as our making the lease payments each month.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
And Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Okay, other. You have any?
I have 2 items, but I know, Mrs. Metzler, did you?
Yeah. I just have one. I received an email from Mrs. Robin Christopher about the theater program, and I just wanted to read to you what she wrote to me. She said that the Steel Magnolias show went very well, and the cast and crew were ecstatic to perform live for audiences. That happened last month. And She goes on to say, due to extenuating circumstances this year, it is in the best interest of the students not to continue with the Beauty and the Beast. While this is heartbreaking for all of us, I know that protecting the students is necessary. All year long, I truly hoped for a way to have the performance and still keep the students safe, but too many things are beyond my control. Tickets pre-sold for Beauty and the Beast will be accepted at any of our shows next year. We have, however, been offering weekly workshops to train students for next year in the technical aspects of theater. We have completed workshops on stage management, costumes, and today publicity. We will also do workshops on lights, sound, set building, and makeup. It has been a great way to introduce new students to theater and to regroup for next year. I have appointed new officers for next year, and they are already eagerly working ahead on plans for next year's season. Maybe this year did not go as we hoped, but the theater program did continue to educate our students not only in the art of theater, but in maintaining integrity and persevering through challenging times. So I've reported my correspondence with Ms. Christopher in the past, and I just think that in light of how this year has gone, she's done a great job with the program. And as she said, continuing to educate the kids and get the kids interested, and looking forward to a better year next year. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
And I have two items that I wanted to share. I just wanted to briefly update the board on the Recovery Wednesdays. Now, of course, I did not think that I would wake up at 4:30 a.m. to get calls from other superintendents talking about power being out, and didn't plan on having any kind of calamity day here in April. But I guess not much to our surprise, because they were calling for it. We did cancel our Recovery Wednesday for today, but did have staff come in on a 2-hour delay. The middle school has had 2 Recovery Wednesdays. Currently, the middle school still has 115 students that are online, but on the Recovery Wednesdays, the week 1, which was April 7th, they had 239 students come in and only 25 absent out of that group. And on week 2, they had 228 come in and they had 36 absent. So again, they had a great turnout. I heard very positive things from that, in that they were really able to focus in on those skills for English language arts and math with the middle school teachers. The elementaries had their first one last week on April 14th. Austinburg had 26 out of their 30 students attend. Cork had 70 out of their 77 that attended. And Geneva Platte Spencer had 113 out of 147 that attended. So again, pretty good attendance. We did have a couple bus issues because our routes have changed slightly. But we, I think, had worked through those and hoped that that was going to work really well today. But because of the cancellation, we'll find out if that works really well next Wednesday. So, and then we still have 185 students that are online at Geneva High School, and they have been contacting their students and trying to work individually with them independently, especially those students that are still receiving enough to try to make sure that any work is completed if they have chances of passing. The high school is also getting out letters to students that need to either repeat a course or take a course because of a failure for their summer school program. The other occurrence that was supposed to happen today was we did have letters that were ready to go with our Recovery Wednesday students. Most of those students are the ones that we are focusing on for the summer school and recovery program. We will invite other students also, but we do have letters. We still plan to have 3 sessions for our K-8 students. Again, the first session in June. And again, the sessions are very similar in the little description that we put there. If selecting this session, it will focus on English language arts and math. Those are the 2 subject areas we'll focus on over the 2-week session. Students will be in small groups, although some classes may have multiple grade levels. Transportation may be provided from group stops in our area. Transportation will be determined by the number of students enrolled and the drivers we have available during the summer. Meal service is being planned for participating students. Right now, we plan to have transportation in June and August for a readiness week for our elementary. July is the 1 month that we may not have transportation available, but we are sending the form and still having a session in July, or at least seeing if there's interest in a session in July. But for that session, we would have to have parents that would be willing to transport their child to and from the session. So we're going to see if there's still interest there. If not, that might be the session that we back off on and don't include this summer. But again, we'll be getting those letters out and seeing what our enrollment will look like here in the next week, hopefully, and be able to proceed with our plans for our summer recovery program. So I just wanted to share that with the board.
I have just one item. Mrs. Metzler mentioned that there was supposed to be a vote today on the budget bill in the House, and I had not seen any emails prior to 5 o'clock. I don't know if that vote was scheduled later, if it didn't happen, but it is projected to happen, if not today, then tomorrow. But we've already heard from our facilitator for the Fair School Funding Plan. The Senate Finance Committee is already scheduling testimony, and they're looking at having testimony on that educational component of the biennial budget bill beginning Tuesday next week. So members of our work group, our co-chairs, have been asked to be available to go down to Columbus to present that testimony on Tuesday. So we'll see what transpires.
Madam President, I have 4 things concerning the same topic. The first one is, how many total Chromebooks do we have right now in our school district? And how many of those are operational? How many have been issued out? And are they issued out only to the students that are doing online classes, or do we have students that are coming to school that are using Chromebooks too? I know our last shipment, we had 1,100 that we received. And then a caveat on that is how are they being accounted for, and have we had any damage?
Mr. Arndt, would you give me those questions again? Just
How many total
okay.
Chromebooks do we have?
Got that.
How many are operational? How many are currently issued out? And are they only issued to the students that are doing online learning, or do we have students that are coming to class every day that still maintain a Chromebook?
And then you asked about damage.
Accountability, how are we accounting for them?
I can get answers for those questions, and I'll respond, and I'll CC the entire board. I don't want to just throw out numbers because
No, I understand.
That way I can give you the details. We have had some damage, mainly at the middle school level. We've had some damage, and we have billed and accounted for that with families. A lot of them broken screens, keys, things like that. A lot of times we try to determine if it was something that the student was at fault, or if it was something that was accidental and really the student wasn't in fault. But I will respond to those questions and get you that information.
But I think we can say that one of the ways these are accounted for, they're all part of our fixed asset record. They are tagged with our tag, and they are kept on the record by location and so on. Those that are out with students that are online students, those would be considered mobile. I mean, because they're not going to be in one of our buildings. They're at home, so they're kind of listed as being mobile, being outside here. But Mr. Burgard also keeps very accurate records of who they went out to, and that's how, working with the schools, we are asked to invoice the students when they report to us that there is a broken screen or broken keys, and we've sent a number of invoices out. I would say I think we've only had 3 families so far paid for the damage, so there are a lot of outstanding invoices out there.
There are outstanding invoices. Okay.
Yes, there are families that have been invoiced for the damage and we have not received payment. Yeah, so.
And what recourse do we have?
The buildings continue to try to collect those fees. And right now, I guess the biggest recourse is when it comes time to graduate. Fees have to be paid up or they may not be able to walk at graduation.
Super, thank you.
Any other business? Now is the time for the second hearing of the public. Once again, if you have comments, please start with your name and your address. Okay, I recommend the board hold an executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property at competitive bidding.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes,
Mr. Dana,
Yes.
and Ms. Fisher.
Yes. Roger?
We won't come back for any more.
Oh, I'm sorry. We will not be coming back after the executive session. There will be no action taken. We thank you for attending tonight and hope to see you next month, if not before.
Eric, is there a separate link here for the executive session or?